is it Billy Madison with Adam Sandler? Oh my God,
Oh,
this is going to make me so mad.
we
You're
are
good.
rolling. Time for another episode of Cash's Top 5. Joining me today, my good friend Vanessa Richardson. Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you, Kash?
I'm doing good back home in Indy, and
Love
you're
it.
also an Indiana native. Spent a lot of time, yes, the Hoosier State there on your shirt. You are currently in Houston covering
Mhm.
sports, where not much going on right now in the world of Houston sports, right?
Yeah, no drama with James Harden or the Astros cheating or Deshaun Watson. Yeah, none of that. Boring job.
A journalist's dream, no doubt.
It is, though. It is. It is.
Well, we're here to do a top 5. This is your day off, so I appreciate you taking the time out to join us today. It's going to be a fun one because you picked a very difficult one.
I
Uh,
did.
we came up with this like seriously weeks ago, and I just now kind of finalized my top 5. What are we doing today?
So both of my parents are musicians, so I grew up listening to primarily oldies, right? Good music, quality music. So I challenged Kash to the top 5 duets of all time. Now, duets, not two people in the same band, two different artists or two different bands, whatever, coming together, the 5 greatest of all time.
That was an important distinction because I remember asking
Yeah,
because Hall and Oates and Simon and Garfunkel, while
right.
technically duos, that's not the duet we're talking about. We're talking about
Right.
two
It's
separate
it's
artists.
one, right. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, like I said, there's been top 5s that were easier than others. This one was much more difficult. And we both have a wide range of music we do listen to,
Uh-huh.
and an appreciation for the older stuff, which I have always enjoyed. I know Bill Withers is your guy. That's your boy.
Oh, my guy. I love Bill Withers. I love, the best concert I've ever seen in my life was Tom Petty and Joe Walsh. But I also, absolutely love country music. So the pedestal starts at Bill Withers. I think he's the greatest and the most underappreciated. But like you said, you and I both just have a very wide range.
Yeah. Well, let's get it started. Number 5, our top 5 duets of all time. What do you have in the 5th spot?
Number 5 is Stop Dragging My Heart Around by Stevie Nicks and Tom Petty. So this was the first single from Stevie Nicks' debut solo album. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers wrote it. And I just think that it's edgy, it's sensual, it's two of the greatest of all time, let alone the 80s. Getting together, I think it's catchy. A lot of people probably wouldn't put this in their top 5. But like I said, Tom Petty's the greatest concert I've ever seen. Rest in peace. And Stevie
Yeah.
Nicks, her popularity transcends generations. So my number 5, the 5th greatest duet of all time, Stop Dragging My Heart Around.
Great pick at number 5.
Thank you.
To use a sports term, I'm glad that your list is not going to be chalk because when you look up top duets of all time, I feel like that's the number one on tons of different lists. You look up top duets and it's always at least in the top
Yeah.
mentioned duets. So for it to crack your top 5, I mean, it's very good.
Thank you.
So that makes a lot of sense. And a lot of people like to grumble, and by people I mean older folks like to grumble about TikTok and Instagram and Snapchat, and basically, if that's how you're introduced to the great music, obviously the guy on the skateboard with
The cranberry
the
juice.
cranberry
Yeah.
juice, listening to Fleetwood Mac Dreams.
Hey.
If that's how they're introduced to it, fine. Like at
And
least
that's what
that
I say
music is
too.
continuing.
I love that. And you think that the artists don't like that? They're making money off of it. So I
Exactly.
mean, I'm with you. However they hear about it, whether it's at a bar, on TikTok, on Twitter, I love it. And Stevie Nicks is one of those artists that her popularity has just continued.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my number 5 for you is not in the classic rock, classic hits
Okay.
realm. We're going to start a little more modern. And it's one of those songs, it seems silly to say this, but it literally stopped me in my tracks when I first heard it.
Oh.
Because I was out working at IMS at the Motor Speedway, and it came on over the PA, and I was like, what is this song? This is like, I wanted to just dance right there where I was standing. And I think it counts as a duet. I'll let you decide, but it's Timbaland featuring Carrie Hilson, The Way I Are.
The Way I Are. Yeah. I mean, yes, that's a duet. And yes, I mean, if you're talking the last 20 years, I mean, that was, and I'm a little bit younger than you, but when that came out, it was everywhere.
Yeah, and
Everywhere.
it's the like it
And that's
fits
his
in
producing
everywhere.
background.
Yeah,
That's
it's
his
great.
producing background. Yeah.
It probably would have ranked a little higher for me if it weren't for the infuriating title. The Way I Are is the dumbest grammatical title of a song I think I've ever heard. So I had to deduct points for that, but huge fan of The Way I Are.
I love that. I love
What you
that.
got at
That's a good
number
time.
4?
Okay, so number 4, I'm taking a similar approach to you with a more, I say more modern one, although it's not new. My Boo by Usher and Alicia Keys.
Oh, wow.
So that one, and this is one that older people might roll their eyes at. Billboard ranked this the 7th greatest of all time. I think if you ask people in their 20s and 30s, it's a duet that really stands out. Alicia Keys had just hit the scene. Usher already had some popularity. It's catchy. It was nominated for a bunch of awards. It was a chart topper for weeks on end. So I think when you look at just that, that trajectory of their careers, that was a huge part of both of their careers. And you'd be hard pressed to find somebody that doesn't know it that's within our age range.
That's very true. Now, how many times have you danced to that song at a school dance?
A lot, and I've sang both parts in the car. I mean, I've sang the duet by myself. Started when we were younger, you and then you my
Uh,
boo. It's one of those things that you just
yeah, that was one that it kept popping up on top lists or whatever. I wanted to make sure I didn't forget any and leave any out, God forbid. It didn't quite crack my top 5. It probably would
yeah,
have been honorable mention just because of the nostalgia factor. Again, you couldn't go to you're younger than me, but yeah, middle school dance, high school
absolutely.
dance, it was a staple for the younger couples. So strong pick at number 4. Um, my number 4 for you, and I feel like this podcast is not sponsored by anybody, but this is the third time I've brought this song up on this podcast, and because it's been such a crazy year, you kind of hold on to what means a lot to you, not to get
Yes,
deep, I
yes.
guess, but um, Carly Pearson Lee Brice, I Hope You're Happy Now in the country world
Good
is
one.
just such a great song. I recently ranked my top 5 country songs of 2020. So clearly it broke into that top 5, and I've had Carly on the show before too, but I can't get over the song. I can just listen to it. It's been a year now, over and over and over. And when it comes to duets, originally she wrote the song with Luke Combs. He's a writer on the
Mm-hmm,
song, and
mm-hmm.
I believe they might have performed it acoustically. He performed on it. Great voice, but Lee Brice is one of those country singers that he may not be the Luke Bryans or the Jason Aldeans,
Right.
the fanfare that they get, but he's a guy who just has an incredible voice and doesn't have a bad song whenever he comes out with a new one. And I just love that one.
I love that one too. I saw Lee Brice live. He's amazing. Carly Pierce. I worked in Cincinnati and she's from the Northern Kentucky area. And
Mhm.
our morning anchor at the time, Lisa Cooney, went and did a story on her because she was the hometown girl. This is probably 2 years ago. So I've loved following Carly Pierce's career, and Lee Brice, like you said, he's quieter. He's not as loud maybe or as extroverted or as bro country as some of the other ones, but he, like you said, it's quality and he doesn't have a bad one. So strong number 4, my friend.
Thank you. We're rolling along. You've got Stop Dragging My Heart Around at number 5. You've got My Boo at number 4. Your third favorite duet of all time. Where are you at?
Okay, so this one is another older one. This is Easy Lover by Phil Collins and Philip Bailey. Okay.
Okay.
Not only is it so catchy, but you're talking about 2 of the greatest. Phil Collins, Philip Bailey, separate incredible careers. The way that they hit the falsetto, the guitar solo, it's amazing. My dad argues that it's the greatest. I have it at number 3.
I think that speaks to the strength of your number one and your number two, that you have that one at number three. A really good song. And I will say, because you said Tom Petty's the best concert you've ever been to, he's up there for me as well. Phil Collins is probably my number one bucket list. I wish I
So
could have
jealous.
seen.
Absolutely. So you haven't seen him yet?
I've never seen Phil Collins. It's
Because
probably
I would like to see him too. Yeah.
Phil Collins and Elton John are 1 and 2. No offense to Elton, but I think I probably don't want to see him live now. I just don't know that he can hit the notes that he could 20, 30 years ago.
Right.
But I think Phil can still really rock out. Obviously, he was the drummer first, who then could sing.
Yep.
But yeah, strong choice at number 3. He's probably, who's your number one? Wish you could see them in concert.
Great question. Is this dead or alive, or is this
or
alive?
We're branching off into other top fives. I apologize. We'll do alive.
Okay, alive. Great. Oh God. Alive. Haven't seen the Foo Fighters yet. Haven't seen Tim McGraw. There's a lot. I mean, there's Lionel Richie. I mean, there's a lot. What about, and you said yours is Phil Collins?
Phil Collins, Elton John. I would have loved to have seen Led Zeppelin back in the day. I mean, they're still alive, but they're not really.
Yeah. Well, and I think you hit on it with the classics, right? If somebody says, do you want to see Stevie Wonder live? I like Stevie Wonder. Now, I'm not his number one fan, but it's Stevie Wonder. So you'd go see it.
You're not going to pass that up. Right.
Right. So I think any of the just iconic legends who have literally changed music, Paul McCartney, you know, you might not be their number one fan, but they're like, you would never say no to seeing somebody who changed music that much.
Yeah, that's true. That's a great point. And I agree. If you have the chance, you take it. You don't pass that up.
Yeah.
My number 3 for you is also where I'm kind of prisoner of the moment, because I was recently introduced to this song, but it's catchy as hell. And it comes from a show that I've also brought up a number of times on the podcast so far. But number 3 is Prince featuring Zooey Deschanel, Fall in Love Tonight. Probably a deeper cut than the others that we've talked about so far, but his vocals, he does the kind of the weird high pitched, you know, anybody want to fall in love tonight? And then it comes up with her, do you wanna, like, it's so good.
Kash with the deep cut. I like that. And I think Zooey Deschanel has an underrated voice. You know, we know her more for her acting, you know, but yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Another rest in peace to Prince, right?
Yeah, another great gone way too soon. There's a video on YouTube that I watch. It's one of the, I don't know if you have this where you revisit old YouTube videos like every few months or every 6 months, like I got to watch it again.
Yeah.
It's the Hall of Fame from 2004, the induction ceremony. It's Jeff Lynne from Electric Light Orchestra, Tom Petty and Prince, and Steve Winwood on guitar. And they're performing While My Guitar Gently Weeps.
Guitar Gently Weeps. I've seen it. It's amazing.
It's so good. And I hope he stays alive for as long as possible, because Jeff Lynne from ELO, another one that I've never seen that I would love to absolutely see in concert. But when he sadly does pass eventually, that's going to be 3 legends gone way too soon. And an incredible video, but we're
totally agree.
We're getting a little off the rails here. Okay, so that's my number 3 for you. Fall in Love Tonight, Prince with Zooey Deschanel. We're getting near the top now. What do you have at number 2?
Okay, so this is a classic for everybody, but especially for the country music fans. For country, this would overall, I think it's number 2. This would be number 1 for country. Islands in the Stream, Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers. Written by the Bee Gees, an absolute classic. Kenny Rogers with his, you know, just iconic voice. Dolly Parton with her light. She's, you know, America's hero. And just the flow of it and the lyrics, again, written by the Bee Gees. I set out to get you with the fine-tooth comb. Just really funny, light lyrics about 2 people and just natural chemistry. It's not too deep. It's not this big emotional song, but it is by far one of the greatest duets of all time. I have it at number 2. Again, if this were a country list, I think it would have to be probably number 1.
I was wondering if it was going to make an appearance on your list, and I'm glad that it did as high as it did. It's one of those, if you Google duets, if you just Google duets in history, the Wikipedia page, Stop Dragging My Heart Around and probably Islands in the Stream are the top two that are going to pop up.
I will say I did not look
100%.
at Wikipedia. These are my opinions, genuinely my opinions. I did not look at Wikipedia, but I could see that Islands in the Stream would be, I mean, you're talking about two of the biggest icons of all time, and you know, it's transcended history. It's
Yeah.
transcended time.
The fact that we're still talking about this song, especially, you know, our age, we're not that young, but we're also beyond that generation. And the fact that it struck such a chord really says
Right.
a lot, you know?
Right.
Okay, my number two for you. For number five, I had The Way I Are, Timbaland with Carrie Hilson. I had I Hope You're Happy Now, Carly Pearson, Lee Brice. Fall in Love Tonight was Prince and Zooey Deschanel. My number two, which I'm wondering if might be an honorable mention for you, because this was my first concert. My first concert ever, back when it was Verizon Wireless Music Center, Deer Creek, was John Mellencamp. John Mellencamp was my first concert ever. And his duet with, I'm sorry if I'm going to butcher her name, Michelle Indigiacello, Wild Night, is my number two. Wild Night is calling. It's so good.
I love John Mellencamp. Love John Mellencamp. That is honorable mention. It's not on my list, but you can't go wrong with that. His just gravelly voice, and yeah, it's perfect. Why is it? Why do you love it?
It's one of those songs that has just always been in my life. You know, whenever I was a little kid and I was in the car with my mom and my little sister on the way to the family farm, which when you're a little kid felt like an entire day, but realized it's only an hour away. But my mom controlled the radio. So it was nothing but, you know, Marshall Tucker Band and Allman Brothers and Led Zeppelin and AC, like all the classic rock as we know it. But the staple in the car was John Mellencamp and eventually his greatest hits, 78 to 88, The Best That I Could Do, the tan gray CD. I still remember it.
Yep.
Just there's that memory of it. You know, I remember it being one of my favorite songs, especially when we're talking about duets. But I remember being a kid at that concert. You know, we were in the lawn. It's me, my dad, my mom, and my sister, the four of us. We all have our liter of water, and I'm a little kid. I don't know any better. I'm thirsty. It's a hot July day. So I'm drinking, I'm chugging this water, and then the concert hasn't even started yet. I'm like, Dad, I got to go to the bathroom. He's like, are you serious right now? And like, as we're walking down the lawn to go to the bathroom, the concert starts and John comes out. My dad is pissed because this little kid didn't know any better. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And so, but it ended up being kind of a cool moment because we stood at the bottom of the lawn, kind of near the top of the pavilion, and got this really cool view of the stage. And John comes out and he's playing bongos and he's playing all these different instruments, and Wild Night, they break out into it, and it just stuck with me for so long. And her vocals, I will admit I didn't know her outside of the song, Michelle Indigiacello, wonderful artist, but her vocals coupled with his, like you said, gravelly voice, it's a classic Hoosier pick. To me, does not get much better than Wild Night.
Totally agree. Okay, so that's your number two, right?
That's my number two. We are at the number one spot.
Okay, so to go over mine again, number 5, Stop Dragging My Heart Around, Stevie Nicks and Tom Petty. 4, My Boo, Usher and Alicia Keys. 3, Easy Lover by Phil Collins and Philip Bailey. 2, Islands in the Stream, Kenny Rogers, Dolly Parton. My number 1, and this is a song that's iconic on its own, but then it's been in so many movies. It's been in so many shows. You hear it at karaoke bars. Lionel Richie and Diana Ross, Endless Love. Iconic.
Oh, okay.
The greatest duet ever. And like I said, I mean, it's in Adam Sandler movies. It was on Modern Family. It's just, I love Lionel Richie. When I was a student at University of Indianapolis, only like 3 years ago, but whatever, I had a picture of Lionel Richie. I know I'm like acting like it's 20 years ago, like 3 years ago, but I had a picture of Lionel Richie on my desk. I love Lionel Richie. And Diana Ross's just soprano voice in that song. It's dramatic, and it would be hard to find anybody over the age of I wouldn't say I'm 25, maybe not 20, but maybe 28 and older, maybe 30 and older that does not know that song. It would be very hard to find. It's my greatest ever, number one.
It did not make my list, and I don't know why. I think maybe because I don't know if this is going to get into a gender discussion about guys
Sure.
versus chicks uh, versus liking it or not. To me, that was one of those like 80s prom songs. Like I picture Hairspray and poofy sleeves and like
You're probably not wrong. It was
yeah.
1981.
Oh, wow. It's one of those songs again, it's been around forever, but yeah, no, that's a strong pick. I mean, again, if we're talking chalk, it's tough to beat. I mean, it's one of those songs too. The ones who really like it, they love that song a lot. It means a lot. Imagine how many first dances at weddings was to that song.
Oh, first dances, like I said, karaoke songs.
It sets the record.
It was in, is it Billy Madison with Adam Sandler? Oh my God, this is gonna make me so mad.
Was it in Wedding? Was it in Wedding Singer?
No, it was the ice skating rink scene. Hold on, let me pause my phone really quick. I'm gonna figure this out. Endless Love, Adam Sandler, Happy Gilmore. It was a Happy Gilmore.
Oh yeah. You're right.
It's just, I think it's the greatest duet ever. It is the typical power ballad, but you're talking about Diana Ross and Lionel freaking Richie. Come on. So that's my number one. What say you?
Wow, so many icons on your list. My number 5 again was The Way I Are. Number 4 was I Hope You're Happy Now. Number 3, Fall in Love Tonight. Wild Night at number 2. My number 1 for you, I think you're probably going to agree with me because it appeared on your list at number 5. Stop Dragging My Heart Around, Tom Petty, Stevie Nicks.
All about it.
It's so good. It's kind of, in my opinion, maybe the opposite of Lionel Richie and oh my God,
Diana Ross.
Diana Ross. I almost said Donna Summer. I was like, that's not right. I've got the wrong lady. Yeah, it's a love song that's kind of chaotic. It's kind of that toxic relationship that you just 100%. But it's still good. You don't want to have it go. And yeah, Tom Petty, one of the best concerts I ever been to. Again, I was on the lawn there at Deer Creek, and I was working a show. I was working for the local classic hit station in Indianapolis on the promo team.
Yeah.
I had to get the station vehicle back to the station because the concert had started. There's a time where we have to get it out of there. And I was like, man, I want to stay and I want to hear Tom Petty Running Down a Dream. That's my favorite song. And I waited and I waited and I waited as long as I possibly could. I was like, all right, I got to go. I got to get the vehicle out. And as I'm walking down the lawn, it started to yes. But before they did that, they got in a rendition of Stop Dragging My Heart Around. And I just will always love that song. You spoke on it. It's iconic. Stevie, Tom. It just doesn't.
Her debut, the first single from her debut solo album. And I love what you said about how it's the opposite of the uplifting ballad, right? It is honest. It is, I think the first lines are, baby, you come knocking on my front door, same old lines you used to use. And what one of us have never had, we've all had somebody, same old lines you used to be, same old lines you used to use before. I said, yeah, well, what am I supposed to do? I didn't know what I was getting into. It's so like we've all had those toxic relationships that we want to keep going back, but they're so bad and we know they're bad. And it's very sensual. Sorry, I feel like I took over your number 1 pick, but I love that song.
No, I'm glad you did. We found out that you actually have a really good singing voice. You're a Renaissance woman, apparently. I refuse to do much singing because I do not have the ear for it. But no, you're right. Those kind of relationships are like when it hurts to blow into a tooth. You got like kind of a toothache, but you can't help it. You're on the hook. You're on the line. Did you have any honorable mentions that didn't quite make the list?
Yes. Under Pressure, Queen and David Bowie.
That's
Now
an
this is
iconic pick. Yeah, for
it
sure.
is, and I Queen is amazing. I'm not the biggest Queen fan, but you cannot deny Queen and David Bowie's influence on music. So Under Pressure is a big one. Let me look at this list. I thought I had a list. I might not have. And then there were some. If we really split it up by decades, The Way I Are was on mine as well. And then Dilemma by Kelly Rowland and Nelly.
I was wondering if that was going to be on your list
That's my
because that
honorable
was
mention.
in that's right up your alley.
And then I think you have to look at Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson, Say, or The Girl Is Mine. You're talking, again, not on my top 5, but it's Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson. So I think that if we split this up into decades, we could really have a lot of fun because there are so many good ones, J-Lo and Ja Rule, that for
real.
us, you could not
Yeah.
go anywhere without hearing that song.
True.
So, I had about 5 or 6 honorable mentions. I'm sticking with my top 5, but J-Lo and Ja Rule, Michael Jackson and Paul McCartney, The Way I Are. There's a lot of Under Pressure. There's a lot of iconic ones.
I remember hearing I'm Real for the first time on the school bus, and I remember being pissed because I had a huge crush on Jennifer Lopez, and here's this dude, Ja Rule, like he can't even sing. He gets to be on a song with J-Lo. This is ridiculous.
Okay, honorable mentions for you.
You covered a lot of them. The only one I'm surprised you didn't bring up, I wondered if it was going to even actually make your list or not, and it didn't make mine because it makes me. It's the musical equivalent of a hangover. Is Kid Rock's Sheryl Crow Picture.
No.
I've heard it in every time I've been out to karaoke, I've heard it, and I've actually performed it a couple of times. That's why it reminds me of a hangover. It sounds like you've got some.
Can't stand it.
Stank face for that song. What's up?
Can't stand it. And you and I have never talked about this, but my close friends know this. I think Sheryl Crow is a really talented musician, and it's important to say that. She was Michael Jackson's backup singer. She's got a great voice. She's very authentic. She's always donating money to causes. She's so good at what she does. Her top hits, though, have not done her justice because they're all annoying. Like, I want to soak up the sun. Like, annoying. So I am not a fan of Sheryl Crow's hits. Now, again, good musician. Can't stand everything, the hits that she's put out. Kid Rock has a couple bangers, but that song is just so whiny to me. It's whiny and sad without the gnarly sexual tension from Stop Dragging My Heart Around. It's sad without the vocal power of Endless Love. I don't like it. I actually don't like it. And I like a lot of music. That's a song I cannot stand.
Wow. I am so glad that you picked Duets. This was so much fun. I learned a lot about you. I thought for sure that I had no idea that you harbored such contempt for Picture, and I'm glad I know that now because that is hilarious to me. But this was a lot of fun. Thank you again for taking the time to do it. Vanessa, you're in Houston covering sports. Where can people, you have a tremendous interview, by the way. I want to plug this for sure. Obviously the Houston Astros, there was a lot of scandal surrounding the past couple of years with the team cheating in the World Series. You got a sit-down interview with a member, he's the GM of the team.
Yeah, thank you for plugging that. Yeah, I did the first ever and the exclusive interview with Jeff Luhnow, who was the general manager who was fired by the Astros. He was suspended by MLB for a year, and then the Astros fired him for what they said was his role. And, I built up a relationship with he and his family, and he wanted to get a side of the story out there. So you can find that on my Twitter. My Twitter is Sports Vanessa. My Instagram is Sports Vanessa. So give me a follow, and I tweet a lot about sports, but I tweet a lot about music too, which is probably obvious. So thank you for bringing that up.
Absolutely. I thought that was just it was so cool that you were able to, I mean, you've done a lot of cool things. You've covered a lot of very important events in
Yeah.
your not so, I mean, you've been at this for a few years now, professionally, longer collegiately as well. But I feel like
Yeah.
you've had some really big moments so far in your not so old career. So I think that's
Thanks.
amazing.
I appreciate that.
And it's very impressive. So I want people to check that out. But we'll absolutely have you on again if you'd like to do another episode. I think this was a lot of fun.
Let's
And
do it.
Vanessa, we'll talk to you soon.